Hey guys, this is miicrow. I wanted to make a quick video about the season of Conquerors for the people that are debating getting into this at this point. This release today was decently fun, I think, for a lot of people on day one, but I wanted to talk about the endgame loop for this mode, or the lack thereof, and kind of the upsides and the really cool parts about it, and then kind of just information about the mode overall, as well as like the game and a few bugs that might be worth pointing out for people. So this release today, originally was planned, I believe, to release at 9 a.m. and then got delayed for like 3 or 4 hours. No, it was supposed to release at 7, got delayed, and then ended up getting released at 10, and then got taken down again because it was not stable and put back up again. So we're still having some server issues at this point, which is a little surprising considering we're like 3 years in. But with that being said, we did get this release. So I wanted to talk about some of the items first, and then we can kind of go into the other part of this. So if you go to New World Database, this is pretty helpful for helpful site for new people, for old people, basically everybody. And you go to items, and you're playing on the seasonal server. Just click this yes seasonal box, and you'll see all the seasonal items. A lot of these have a unique perk that is extremely powerful. And the really cool part about all of this is that you can put all these perks on. So it's like artifacts, right? But there's no restrictions. So it's like you can get as decked out as you want, but just know when you die, whether it be in open world or apparently in cross world contract, you'll drop and you'll lose all your items. So make sure if you're queuing OPR in one of these worlds that you don't have one of these weapons equipped, because A, they won't even work within the game mode, and then B, if you die, you're just gonna lose them. But a couple of them are extremely powerful. And Kite Shield is kind of interesting. If you block a ranged attack, you spawn a bubble shield. There are a lot of people that like the Yedison's hammer. This is a Conqueror's hammer that will kind of basically throw people around. And there's a few other like really strong ones, like the Ice Scotland's super strong. The Fire Staff looks incredibly broken. And just overall, it's one of those game modes where you have a lot of stuff that's very unbalanced, but because everything is unbalanced and because there's high stakes involved, it kind of evens itself out if that makes sense. So you can be as risky as you want or as safe as you want, but these items basically are only usable within open world. The unique perks are disabled in mutations, they're disabled in expeditions, they're disabled within raids, they're disabled within OPR, and they're disabled within 3v3. So they work in wars and they work in open world. And they work on the FFA island, I guess, if that's content, but we know that probably won't be content for super long. If you are going to use these in wars, beware that if you are in war and you die, it is just like how it behaves in open world, like you saw with this picture, where even though this is instance and you shouldn't lose everything, you're going to lose everything when you die. And there was a screenshot I took from the dev Q&A that I didn't make a video about because there wasn't a ton of content, but there's enough for that to talk about this. So I see like a lot of like warloggers in particular, a lot of people that are coming back and are like, oh, I like New World to play the seasonal server because it's like once in a while event and I'm going to do the war. Just beware if you take multiple of these sets in on your body and you die, you will drop every single set and every single item that you have there. So you will need to take one of these sets if you want to risk it, and then you'll need to take a kind of a traditional set, which in my opinion makes the endgame content dead on arrival in terms of like a PvP endgame, but the open world aspect is at least really cool and interesting. I think your endgame content, to be honest, for this sort of thing is influence races. Like influence races will probably be the most fun form of endgame content that you can take part in, where you can kind of see how you fare with your OP build versus other OP builds. But I don't think wars itself are actually going to be that exciting because it's like you just die, you lose everything, you know, and like yeah, it's your one death, and then you're out of the war basically. So it just I don't think the war system is super well thought out of. In Albion, when we had larger conflicts, there was a system where you could like basically bank sets. So you can only take one set out at a time. Like maybe access your storage from the war area. Like that would be a really big improvement. So that you could actually like have multiple sets prepped and take out the new set when you die. You bank your enemy sets when you kill them, like that kind of thing, and it turns into kind of a fiesta, if you will. but it's at least like interesting. It's just I don't think this is super well thought out. And the other thing I want to point out is some of the perks aren't working as expected right now. So if you have slash ward or like one of those wards on your amulet, it's only giving you 5% damage reduction. So it's like basically the value of a conditioning when it used to be 15 and it says it's 15. And Divine, I believe, is also giving a 5% increase instead of a 10% increase. So it's like a couple of the gear pieces, like you literally won't know if it's bugged or not unless you like look in the back end on New World Buddy. So just be aware of that some of your stuff isn't working as intended. You know, it's a New World patch. Like you expect that stuff will not be working as intended, but like it's just kind of crazy that they mess up some of the basic things at this point, not like some of the harder problems. Like I would expect that there's going to be tons of bugs with all of these like unique weapons because they probably didn't have QA test them a ton, and there's probably some that are extremely OP. Like that would be perfectly fine. It's just like the basic like data things. It's like really you're having issues with that at this point. Like that should be caught through automation. How we could probably use some like AI to even catch half those bugs for crying out loud, and it would probably catch the majority of them because they're pretty basic once you know what you're looking for. But we are just not there yet. In my opinion, I think the seasonal worlds are interesting to check out in terms of the stuff that you can craft, but I think the actual content for the end game just isn't there. So I'm personally not going to be playing on these worlds because I don't really see a point. I'm still playing other games and still waiting for a bigger update for New World. I think this is a really good first step though. It's just they need to iron out like the end game of the seasonal worlds, right? Because like the majority of players' end game in New World from a PvP perspective is OPR. And the fact that you can't use these perks in OPR makes them like kind of annoying / like you don't really feel like running it. Like I feel like what they could have done is they could have had like the OPR be at least early on be instance amongst the seasonal world, right? Like they could try something like that. Like the queue time might be like kind of messed up at the beginning, but like at least you could use the kind of cool gear then and kind of do something with it. But like right now there's like not too much to use the gear for in terms of like mid to large scale endgame activities. And along with the bugs where it's if you take gear in, you'll lose it too, which is really annoying. It doesn't seem super appealing from like an endgame loop perspective. Like there's just not that content there. But the stuff that they actually did make is really, really interesting. And the part that's like really annoying to me, and I think a lot of people have had this thought too, is like this, like all the stuff that they put here on the, in terms of these weapons where it's like super, super unique effects, right? Like when dodging through an enemy melee attack, trigger a ball of corruption that explodes, doing 60% void damage to all targets in the 3-meter radius and causing your next hit within 4 seconds to gain 30% in power. Like, that's what, it's like a really cool, unique effect. And that's kind of what I expected, like, artifacts to be. But artifacts just ended up being just, like, basically basic stat mods. And I feel like they definitely could be more creative with artifacts or try to incorporate some of these designs into artifacts. And I wish artifacts were at a similar power level. It was like, oh my gosh, this is really, really transformative. Because in every other game I've played with a similar system, if you get like one of these unique weapons, it's like, oh my gosh, it changes the game completely. It's so cool. And like everyone talks about it all the time. And New World artifacts, it's like, oh yeah, you know, I put on Void Dark Plate and I got 10% tankier and I feel really happy with that, you know? It's like it changes my gameplay. It's like, no, it doesn't really do that much. So it's like, I just wish that they could be a little bit more unique than rather than just pure stat mods, if you will, and like have actual like effects that are impactful rather than just being numbers. At least for the weapons, like the armor, like you could get a little bit more lenient, and jewelry could get a little bit more lenient, but like weapons, just like they deserve to have something that would be like really, really unique and really, really powerful in my opinion at the end game. And we haven't been there. The system seems to be improving that, but we're not there yet. Let me know what you guys think if you're playing on these worlds. And I will see you guys in the next one.